from Big Bama, you're not the little one. We got smoke for anybody that wants some. Yeah, we don't do no yapping, and we don't do no capping. We from the state where all we know is make it happen. Hey, what you say now? Hey, you know what to do. Alabama. Hey, now what you say? Alabama. Hey, now what you say? Alabama. Let me hear you say it a little bit louder now. Alabama. This for the 251. Oh yeah, that 334. 205-659. Y'all already know. My folks in 938. Oh yeah, that 256. Every city, every town, down to the sticks. See, we don't do no yapping, and we don't do no capping. We from the state where all we know is make it happen. Hey, what you say now? Hey, you know what to do. Alabama. Hey, now what you say? Alabama. Hey, now what you say? Alabama. Let me hear you say it a little bit louder now. Alabama. Oh yeah. Now what you say? Hey, what you say now? Where you from? What you say? You know what to do. Alabama.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How y'all doing? We at it again. It's a Thursday afternoon, man. We got the great Mr. Pual Prine in the building. Yeah, he's running for mayor of Mobile, Alabama, man. Please come in, tune in, share the page, share it. If you're on YouTube, give me a thumbs up and a subscribe, man. We doing a great thing today. We got the upcoming hard race. It's an open seat. Mayor Stimson is retiring. It's 4 of them running for the seat. And tonight, y'all get to talk to the great Pual Prine, man. It's going to be an exciting night. Thank y'all so much. Pual Prine, he hails out of Pritchard, Alabama. He went to Viger High School, graduated in 1990. We graduated the same year, so this ought to be interesting. He joined the Mobile Police Department in 1997. He became the police chief in 2021. And his campaign is Prime Time 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, without no further ado, let's please get in here and meet the mayor that's running for the race, man. And we wishing him luck. And he come to talk to the citizens of Mobile, Alabama, Mr. Pual Prine.
How you doing there, DJ, Mr. Sexy, Mr. Grown and Sexy?
You liked that intro?
Hey, I love it. It's fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for giving us a little time, man. I greatly appreciate you, man. We wishing you well in this race. Y'all running a tight race. It's for y'all that's trying to get this seat. And for the ones that's on the fence, man, I thought this would be a great idea for you to kind of talk to them and let them know a little bit about you. So how I always start is introduce yourself to the fans of Mobile, Alabama.
Listen, Mobile, you've seen the videos that I've put out on Prine for Mayor on Facebook. I always come to you and say, hello, Mobile, because that's who you are, and I'll do the same thing today. Hello, Mobile. You know, a little bit about me, and I think Mr. Grown and Sexy already said it. I grew up in Pritchard, in Alabama Village, went to Viger High School, come out in 1990, had a fabulous time. Wolfpack for life for all them Wolfpackers out there for sure. The school that spirit built. And listen, I've been in public service for 30 years, had a great time, and certainly want to continue to serve the citizens of Mobile for sure. And that servant leadership role that I've done for the past 30 years.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. So let's just dive in. I first would like to ask, your first 100 days in office, what are the first things you would like to target?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I'll be upfront with you. We've got to audit the books. That doesn't necessarily say that anything's wrong, but we just spent $300 million on the Civic Center. We needed the Civic Center. Absolutely. There was just a different way I felt like we should have done it other than the taxpayers being on the hook. We just committed to $16 million in the St. Louis Street corridor to do sidewalk and revitalization in that particular area. We spent $15 million certainly for dredging Langan Park. You have to question the cost on that. And then, of course, let us not forget, we just spent nearly $1 million buying an animal shelter and prime commercial real estate property. And then now we're saying it's going to cost another $10 million. This money has got to be coming from somewhere. And so before we can do anything, certainly the first 100 days, it's probably going to take every bit of 100 days. And that's to audit the books, find out where the frivolous spending is, cut that money, and figure out how do we reinvest that into Mobile to level up every citizen in Mobile.
Yes, sir. We had a shooting down in the district, downtown district. The people down there are really trying to keep their business afloat down there. They kind of like brothers and sisters, like a family downtown. In your mayorship, what would you do differently to secure the citizens that like to come down and enjoy themselves, either eat, drinking, or a live show at the Singer or something in that effect? Because we done had a couple of shootings down there in the last few months.
Yeah, we have. And listen, I will tell you, we battle certainly the crime, but also the perception of crime, right? Relatively speaking, and hear what I say relatively, we've had some significant shootings down there that matter, right? But that lends this perception that it's dangerous downtown. Downtown is relatively safe, so to speak, right? The biggest issue we have, or in many regards, is property crime, such as getting your car broke into, things of that nature. But unfortunately, we have had the shootings, and we have had, God forbid, the homicides, and that discounts every good that's been done down there. Certainly, you heard me say that we need to audit the books, but a few years ago, we moved the downtown precinct to Water Street, and that was done in collaboration with RSA and certainly the Retirement Systems of Alabama. But if you'll remember, that precinct used to be right there at Dolphin Street. It was visible right there at the corner of Claiborne. And that was really visible, and having that visibility is certainly a deterrence. But you may have heard me on the campaign trail say that, listen, we're 100 officers short, and we really are. And then everybody says, well, my God, Paul, what are you going to do, man? Are you going to arrest everybody? It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with making sure that we have enough personnel for these big events, whether it's Mardi Gras, First Night Out, Mob Fest. We want to make sure that the deterrence is there. And the only way to have the deterrence there is you've got to have boots on the ground. But not only for that, when we say we're 100 officers short, you have to understand that a lot of these are to address quality of life issues, whether it's litter, blight, noise ordinance issues that a lot of people have a problem with. These are issues that are not being addressed currently because we're systemically short 100, 120 officers, have been probably for the last 12 years. And we've got to have those officers to be able to do, we talk about strategic initiatives, right? Youth violence programs. Well, we have to have police officers because those officers are on the front line dealing with the community day in and day out. And if we don't have those officers there, and if we don't move that precinct back to a place downtown where it can be seen, it's a deterrence, but it's also there if citizens have a problem, if they're having a medical emergency, or if they want to report a crime, they've got to be able to know here's where that facility is. And that really wasn't a good move to move that precinct to Water Street. And that would certainly be my commitment to downtown.
Yes, sir. How do you feel can you your administration attack the high rate of youth violence we have in the city at this moment? I mean, they getting these new guns, they putting these switches on these regular guns, turning them to full automatics now. A lot of them don't like to work. They don't have no jobs. They don't have no career. So in your administration, what would be your hands on for your youth and helping them with the violence that they're going through?
Well, listen, fantastic question, and I appreciate you answering. We've done a lot of forums over the last couple of months and debates, so-called debates, and you really don't have a lot of time to elaborate. Thank you for asking that. Listen, the biggest contributor of those in our community, for the most part, are involved in committing most of the majority of the crime in our community. Okay? You don't hear me talk. You've never heard me talk as the chief of police about black on black crime and how it's disproportionate. There could be an argument for that. Let me tell you my position. You're talking to a man that by God's grace came out of the ghetto. I don't have to look like you to come out of the ghetto. I grew up in Alabama village, grew up very poor. But if I can elaborate, I had a lot of love, faith, and discipline. And I slept on a couch for the first 18 years of my life, or at least from the time Mr. Grown and Sexy, that my mama kicked me out of the bed and put me on that couch. And to this day, that was the discipline. And when we say discipline, we're not always talking about corporal punishment. The discipline that every day from the time I was young enough to the time I was 18 to remember, I had to get up and make that couch up every single day. And so even today, I do the same very thing. My wife is grateful, and she's privileged for that, because I will make the bed up, but it has become habit. So for me, the second part of my plan, there's three parts of Paul Prine's plan, right? It has to be safety first. Whether it's concerts, living, working, playing in Mobile, we all want the same thing. I've sat in the living rooms of every Mobilean practically in every district, or on their couch. And it doesn't matter who these folks are. They all want the same thing, and that's to be safe. But the second part of my platform is developing out that workforce development, certainly for our high schoolers. Our high schoolers need hope and opportunity. And what I mean by that is, in the long run, it really is a long pull. But if you'll hear me out, it will also address our crime issue through strategic initiatives, right? We'll continue doing a lot of the programs that we do, and we have to have the Boys and Girls Club. It's been defunded in many regards, but certainly county, local, state level, federal level. We've got to get back to doing that. If we don't mentor our kids, the streets are going to do it. That's a fact. Nobody lived those streets more than I did. Okay, but we also know that in our community, there's fatherless homes. You alluded to that. We know this. But government can't get into the home. We cannot put religion into the home because of the separation of church and state. But here's what we can do as leaders, whether we're state, county, or local leaders. We need to be working and partnering with the Mobile County school system, arguably the largest system in the state. And we need to start preparing our high schoolers right now for the jobs in Mobile and Baldwin County. Listen, the chamber says 6,000 jobs are coming to Mobile in the next 5 years. That being said, we're behind the 8 ball. And listen, this is not to disparage any of these educators at all in the local Mobile County school system. They're great people. But my argument has always been, and listen, Prine's going to always give you receipts, okay? Don't ever doubt it. The reality of it is we have great signature schools. And the school system will tell you that every kid in the county has access, but that's not really a pragmatic or a common sense approach, right? We can get into that if you want. But Baldwin County right now, Mr. Grown and Sexy, Baldwin County built a $100,000 facility over on Highway 59. They opened the doors last year. Google it, pull it up, put Prine to the test.
Right.
They're training their children right now for all the jobs in Mobile and Baldwin County. And listen, great for them, great leadership. I just happen to believe there's enough jobs for even our kids to participate if they want to participate. So we know in the school system, typically there's 3 tracks of life that we all go in, right? College, military, or workforce. We should know by 8th grade if our children are college ready. It doesn't matter why they're not. If they don't have the intellectual capacity to move on the next 4 years in high school and prepare for college, we should know that by 8th grade. So let's stop fooling ourselves. There's a lot of variables and a lot of reasons why some of our children are not prepared, but we should be preparing them for the military or bringing their families in and say, look, little Johnny just ain't cut out for college. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter why. But the reality of it is let's put him in a job, a workforce development job, making really good money. Do you know master plumbers make over 6 figures a year?
That's right.
So why don't we look down on workforce development? I don't know, but I'll end that part with this. You can't arrest your way out of crime, but we can certainly give a hand up. I don't believe in handouts, but I do believe in a hand up, because without that hand up, Paul Prine wouldn't be sitting here today as a retired chief of police and certainly running for mayor for the second largest city in the state of Alabama. God's grace and mercy, but I also had to put the work in. Here's the thing. Nothing changes the life of children or young adults more, other than my Savior Christ. Nothing changes the life more than wealth and prosperity. So Mobilians has got to understand, I'm going to be a little hard with you there, Mr. Grown and Sexy, because that's what I do. I'm going to come to you. Mobile's a black
That's what I wanted.
Mobile's a black man. Mobile has the majority voting leverage. Mobile, I need you to show up and act like it, whether you vote for me or not. Because the reality is, my plan is about bringing, as that tide of prosperity rises from the greatest to the least in Mobile, everybody that wants to participate will have an opportunity to participate, because nothing changes lives more than wealth and prosperity. And not only for their lives, but for generational lives, their kids, their grandkids. And Paul Prine's hell bent to see that through. But I've got to get consensus. You've got to vote me in. And we've got to get these leaders to understand that if we don't turn this youth around, we've already lost 3 or 4 generations. But if we don't turn it around, we're all going to suffer for it, because nothing's more costly than crime in a community.
Yes, that's so true. About the new bridge we getting ready to build, a lot of work will be coming in for the bridge. The long-term vision for the Mobile infrastructure of that bridge, streets, lights, new stop signs, new pavements, what would be in your administration for the new infrastructure that's coming to Mobile?
All right, so perfect question, but you have to integrate that with the old. So one, let's just, if we can go in reverse, the old infrastructure. Everything east of 65 is old Mobile, okay? We haven't really put a lot of money into old Mobile. You don't take my word for it. Wait until it rains real hard and ride down O'Shell Road around Ann Street. Let me know how that worked out for you.
Exactly.
The truth is, we need to work with our city council. And we need to say, listen, we need to bring all this capital funding in. Let's audit east of Mobile or east of I-65, which would be east of Mobile. And let's figure out where our problems, our challenges are. Let's take this money over the next 4 to 8 years, and let's get this infrastructure put to rest. Okay, it's a problem. It's got to be put to rest. Because if we don't do that now in the next 8 to 10 years, we're going to start then having to go out west and start fixing some of those infrastructure issues, because we're getting to a point where now the old West Mobile, which is from 65, probably University Boulevard, maybe Cody Road, at some point the infrastructure there is going to need some serious maintenance. To your point about the bridge will be new, but it's going to cost us a lot of money, and it is part of infrastructure. I'll be frank with you. Everything I've read, it looks like between, the city, the county, and the state, it appears that Mobilians, and of course, Mobile County and some tax revenue is paying about 30% of the overall bridge cost. And everything I've read up on, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that in all these other projects across the country that federal highways get usually 70 to 80% of the funding. And it seems like they're only now with I-10, with the new bridge, it's reversed. So in other words, it seems like the federal government's paying somewhere between 30 and 40%, and the taxpayers of Mobile are on the hook for the remainder. And I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that. I'd like to work with Congressman Barry Moore, certainly Shamari Figures in the new district that's been put together, and figure out how do we get more funding for that bridge to loosen up and maybe try to get away from this talk of toll bridges and all this other money. There's a lot of ideas floating around, but once the bridge is built, the infrastructure will need to be maintained, but that cost will be relatively low, at least for the short term. But in a few years, if we don't fix the east of I-65, I'm going to be frank with you, we're going to have a really big problem.
Yes. Yes. A single household, a single family home is pretty much the tripled. In your administration, do you see yourself sitting down with the Chamber of Commerce and seeing what kind of development or restructuring of the house income in Mobile will help the citizens of Mobile? The house is going up, but the hourly rate's not moving. So where you at on that situation there?
All right, great, man. You coming with the real deal this
Hey,
evening?
man, I studied, man. What you thought I was going to play some records for you tonight?
Hey, man, don't get me on them ones and twos. I might have to pull them back out. Don't tempt me. But look, I got to tell you, it's a great question. It really is. So right now, you can go into the Chamber of the Chamber of Commerce website, right? And so I think the average median income in Alabama, or correction, Mobile, is $56,000 a year. And I read somewhere that 20 years ago it was $55,000 a year. Exactly. So for me, the issue isn't so much affordable housing, and I'm gonna get to that because that's kind of like a hook that I got you on that. But the real problem is, and we'll come back to it, is all these politicians that's been in office for 20 years, doesn't matter who they are, they all talk about sitting at the table, bringing Airbus, bringing Austal, ThyssenKrupp, which is now AM&S, and Otokumpo. We brought all these people in, and they promised us jobs and said, we'll hire from your community. But we never followed up as leaders to find out how many people from our community do you hire year on year. I know we can't put a number on it, but what's that number look like? Because it seems to me that the vast majority of the high-paying jobs are going to those that live in Baldwin County or move from out of state, but ultimately they end up going to Baldwin County because the jobs are here in Mobile County. And this is nothing against Baldwin County. We need to start looking out for Mobilians. That's my position. And so where are our leaders, right? Because they say, well, we're bringing all these jobs, and every time that's come up in a forum, I'll sit there and look at the crowd and I'll say, how has that affected you? It hadn't affected me any, because the big corporations don't pay the bulk of the taxes because they get tax incentives to relocate with the promise and the lure that they're going to hire our community members, right, our citizens, and then they don't. But listen, rightfully so, we can't hold them accountable because we're not really teaching our children in a mass scale to be educated for these jobs in Mobile County.
Right.
So one, we need to focus on elevating that not only the cost of living for people, but that discretionary income. But the reality of that is affordable housing. So there's two parts really. And I heard one candidate say, well, affordable housing is many things to many people. Well, really it's not. We can't just change definitions, okay? Affordable housing typically is government subsidized housing. What you're referring to is about these houses that have tripled. And I have to tell you, I had a realtor try to argue with me and say, well, in the last 5 years, housing's only went up 40, 50%. I beg to differ. I absolutely beg to differ. They have 100% increased, okay? And I will tell you this. Those are called market rate housing. So you got affordable housing, market rate. Market rate housing, we can work with the chamber, but you can't control the free market in that way. So whatever the cost of labor is, the cost of building materials on top of whatever the contractors cost to do a job, I don't know how you bring that down. The old saying, everything, the cost of doing business always goes up. I don't know that it necessarily comes down. But competition does drive the market down. But I don't think you're going to go back pre-2020 on the cost of housing. So if you're not going to be able to dictate the free market system to say, look, you can build this house, because here's the thing. You go buy a $500,000 house, I'm just going to be frank with you. You can't tell that developer to sell it for $300,000. If it cost him, $450,000 to build the house, with labor and materials, and you got $50,000 as a contract fee, really the only thing you're going to be negotiating is his contract fee. And the only way he's going to reduce that just depends on the volume of the work he's got. But look here, let me say this, affordable housing. what I don't understand is prior to 2012 in Mobile, listen, Prime give you the receipts. I know what HUD was doing, and I think it's a great concept, right? We get away from that model of, all the indigent, maybe those at the lower end of the social economic scale or in all the housing projects. So we get rid of that. And that's what my studies and research has shown. And then we give people vouchers to move and integrate those most prominent in society. And listen, I couldn't tell you if it works. I like the idea. I think it's a great idea, but nobody has shown now. We're a decade behind that, a little over a decade. So where's the measurement? Where did we find out the success of doing that? Because here's the reality. Roger Williams is gone. Orange Grove is gone. Happy Hills is gone. Thomas James, R.V. Taylor now are dilapidated and vacated, and it's just a matter of time before they're gone. Now, I haven't had time to go and find out if this property has been switched over, but for me, why did we not rebuild if we were going to tear it down or renovate these properties, right? Because for me, and I know some people may not like that argument, but for me, I'd rather a 5 or 6, 7-year-old kid to play in green space, behind their house than to play in a parking lot, at a garage, at some of these big complexes now that they're building, right? Which are essentially affordable housing, but they're apartment complexes. So then that gets into, we give vouchers to, residential houses, and I'm sure that's going, but there's only a limited amount of stock for that. My position is this, is if the city is truly going to talk about affordable housing and we cannot control the private market, then maybe we should go through Prine. I went there a couple of weeks ago, had a great canvassing area where me and some people went over there, sat on the porches with some of the folks, and there's a lot of dilapidated properties over there. Force these property owners to fix their property up, and if they don't, then the city needs to find a way through a nuisance abatement to take the property. And of course, and I'm saying doing my due diligence, I'm not talking about warn them today and take it tomorrow. I mean, there's a process to that in the legal system. But listen, if the city really wants to help, let's partner with all of our community leaders, county, state, and local, get the funding down here. We buy the properties. We're already doing it now, but right now only a select, and I won't get into that, but only a select handful of contractors are allowed to come in and buy these stock homes that the city's already taken. But the city can give some money to that and says, we'll contribute to this, we'll give you the property, but here's the cap. You can't sell that house over $150,000, $170,000. And then if you'll do that, you'll find out the campground, the bottoms, we can revitalize some of these areas, but reduce crime on top of it, because what good is revitalization if people don't feel safe? So it's a double-headed approach. But if we really want to bring people back to Mobile, we've got to be transparent with the public and say, look, here's a better way. And let's go in here, revitalize some of these properties, and let's get it back to community members, because I guarantee it, there are a lot of Mobilians that would love to come back to their respective community and be able to live in a nice house that's crime-free. I know that was a lot, Brother DJ, but I mean, that's a long conversation. It's a complex, but there is a remedy to it. We just don't have all the answers.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why you're here, man. That's why you're here. The people need to know. So I'm just trying to get the word to the people. We had two major accidents where there was police chasings. I don't know. I've never been a cop.
Right.
So my question is to you, when you get in mayorship, how would you direct the issues that we're having? Do they have to run behind the car? Could they shut it off sooner? Could they, what kind of plan are you putting in to implement for the safety of the citizens of Mobile? Because I think in the last month and a half, we've had two major accidents on the roads where somebody trying to run away from the cops.
Hey, listen, great question. Absolutely right. You have to value the sanctity of life. Let me just first lead off by saying this. The two last vehicle chases over the last week and a half, 2 weeks have been pursued. I believe the city of Mobile may have been involved. a backup role, but those were pursued by the sheriff's department, which really has jurisdiction all over the county.
Okay.
But as far as the city police is concerned, I'll tell you that the city police department is a member of PLEA, and that's an acronym really for the accreditation, law enforcement accreditation in the country. It's a countrywide accreditation. And we have at the Mobile Police Department one of the most comprehensive vehicle pursuit policy that there is, right? But a policy is only as good or as bad as the leadership enforces the policy. So I think the respective question is, what would I do? And I would ensure that the leadership there, no doubt, enforces and goes by the rules of the policies. These policies are not made by the staff, per se, of the Mobile Police Department or even the chief or the mayor. These policies with the Mobile Police Department, so the public knows, is they're established in many regards as the best practices in the industry, and it doesn't come from any one organization or any one police department. You can look that up for yourself. They're the best practices in the industry, and of course, each jurisdiction will adjust the policy because every community is uniquely different, right? But without getting knee deep into the policy, we have to outweigh the value of apprehending the person that we're pursuing versus the danger to the public. And then sometimes some of these pursuits that go on for 10, 15, 20 minutes, unless that is a homicide suspect or a sexual assault suspect where we've got to get them, like a serial rapist, and you've got to get them off the street, you still have the responsibility in law enforcement, in the leadership role, to make sure that you factor in time of day, pedestrian traffic, the vehicle traffic, the necessity to apprehend versus the danger to the community. And there are very few circumstances that would allow us to continue those chases. I will argue, though, that the vast majority of these chases, when they start from the time there's an incident, if there's an accident or a wreck involved, to be frank with you, a lot of times before the officer driving the car can even report to the supervisor what I just told you, vehicle traffic, pedestrian traffic, the conditions of the roadway, whether it's during school times or not, those are big issues. And more than not, usually within about a minute and a half, when speeds get up to well over 80, 90 miles an hour, where people really don't have the experience to control their vehicle, within a minute or so, minute and a half, before the supervisor can even approve that pursuit, the wreck or accident's already happened. So then the question becomes, well, what were we pursuing them over, right? And so if you live in a society, in my opinion, where if you never pursue, it doesn't take long for the criminals to find out, and that becomes problematic. If you do pursue, it's a very vulnerable situation. My commitment to Mobilians as the mayor is to make sure with every vehicle pursuit, whether they're, and we do review those annually, the chief and the mayor. I'm not, we give them to the mayor. I'm not sure if the mayor actually reviews them, but the chief of police always reviews the annual report. But to ensure that every pursuit is scrutinized so that eventually the rank and file will realize they're not going to just pursue for any and every minor traffic accident or incident that occurs. But it's very comprehensive. It's a very complex situation. And but that's where, in my opinion, strong leadership really does matter. And that really is a fantastic question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I know you're running for time. I appreciate you so much for taking this interview.
I got plenty of time for you, DJ. Come on. Don't matter, baby.
You came in our homes and our hearts under some disgruntled to you and your family. Yeah. Some people are on the fence about where they want to vote this year. Some people are really, really feeling you, but they feel that maybe if they get you in, you might have an axe to grind. So what I want you to elaborate a little bit on, not how you got fired, but to make the citizens understand that you're in there coming in to do a job and kind of explain to them, the ones that's on the fence, because we vote August 26th. So I feel like to end the night will be a good time for you to let them know, because like I said, you basically came into our living rooms under some distress, and we like to know where you stand on that issue, because some feel like if he get in, he got to ask the grind, he coming to fire everybody, coming to do this, he coming to do that, and like, no, we got to give him a chance. So explain a little bit of that to us, please.
Okay, so I'll probably go in a little reverse order. And again, listen, I'm going to be frank with you, man. We should have had you doing all the moderation at these forums. I felt like we got a lot of...
I'm here.
Yeah, but man, we did so many forums and debates, and I personally feel like, I mean, you've asked great questions, but I personally feel like, and no pun intended to any of these forums, I'm grateful to have participated. But listen, I felt like a lot of them were redundant. I felt like a lot of them were kind of loft softball approaches, right?
Yes, sir.
That is a fantastic question. Listen, so a little bit about me. I'm a 30-year public safety law enforcement professional, okay? And irrespective of what you may have heard about Pual Prine, you don't rise to the top of any organization if you're adversarial, if you're temperamental, hot-headed, right? Because there's 30 years. Those are the type of traits, human behavior traits that, you know, these leaders and supervisors would have recognized that when I was in my early 20s, not in my 50s, right?
Right.
And so, you know, that all that happened with me last year, it's very complex, very issue. But I was asked to commit a crime. I make no bones about it, and I refuse to do that. Now, listen, had I committed that crime, had I went along with the program, and I could have very well did it, I made $150,000 a year. How's that for transparency?
That's right.
If I would have went along with it, Mobilians would have never known it. But I did it, and that's because of character and integrity. So one of your comments, are you going to come in and fire everybody? Listen. Those at the mayor's level, the cabinet, if you will, whether it's the mayor, the governor, or the president of the United States, those positions are very fluid. You go back since Mike Dow, Sam Jones, now Sandy Simpson, each one of those administrations brought in their own directors, department heads, right? Especially for administrative services, those closest to the mayor, the police chief, certainly the fire chief. These are appointed positions, and those positions are so important to the community that whoever your next mayor is, it doesn't matter who they are. Make no mistake, they're going to do it. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you what they're going to say. Well, we're going to evaluate the workload and see what they've done, this, that, and the other. But you have to be careful with that. You have to evaluate the workers' work that maybe you're in appointed positions, but those at the higher executive level that report directly to the mayor and the chief of staff, yes, those positions will be replaced. I make no bones about it. Not going to lie to you. I hadn't lied. I'm not going to start lying to you now, because unfortunately we're flawed people. And so the next mayor that comes in, or the next governor, the next president, you have holdouts and people that will not push the plan. The police department, we reduced homicides at the Mobile Police Department, City of Mobile, 65%. And in my opinion, that still wasn't enough. We're saving lives, but it still wasn't enough. If you go from 2021, we had 51 homicides. When at the end of 23, we left 23 with 33 homicides. That's a 65% reduction. Prine gives you receipts. And I wasn't happy with that, but I didn't do it. The plan has to be pushed ad nauseum by those that are working in the organization pushing the plan. Now, the people I'm referring to are at the very top, right? And that's essentially comes out to about 7, 8 people. But those that are under them, there's no reason to get rid of those folks. Those are the worker bees. Those are the people that's putting in the work. They're not going to work, okay? But we're talking about those at the highest level. Now, I have the privilege of understanding how the current administration works, and I say this as a matter of truth, not disparagement. But I've been behind this veil. So you can take my word for it that we need some change up there behind the veil at City Hall. Because whereas sometimes, and you heard me say it at the O'Shell Road Forum, when I say we, not me, because I lost my job for being me and not they. But the reality of it is we do or are expected to lie to the community, or at least twist circumstances so it puts the city in a positive light. Well, listen, there's no reason to do that. If we're all being truthful and transparent, let's be truthful and transparent. It doesn't matter what the situation is, even if it's not favorable. The public deserves to know the truth. So for me, there will be those at the highest level that will be, but you're not talking about a whole lot of people at all, okay? And maybe even some of those may be able to say, but I'll go ahead and put it on the record. Your public safety director, he's gone. Not because of him per se, but because I don't think Mobile's that big that the fire chief and the police chief is crucial as those positions are. They shouldn't have to go through layers of bureaucracy. They should have a direct line to the mayor with those issues that affect the community. And it's disingenuous to the voter to have all these layers of bureaucracy, in my opinion. Now, that being said, am I going to be animus? Absolutely not. And I appreciate you letting me come on. I will tell you this. I am not suing the city of Mobile. Okay. I know that everybody says he's suing. I'm not suing the city. I'm suing the individuals that said or put things in writing that was, in my opinion, completely fabricated, truths that were twisted to defame me. And I'll just tell you this. What would you have done? What would your listeners have done? You know, I put the lumps and the bumps in. Like I told you, you don't become the chief of police if you were adversarial, and you certainly don't climb the rank if you're an adversarial person. Those are human behavior and flaws that sometimes we battle as individuals, okay? But you don't rise to an organization being that type of person. I've been a public servant for 30 years, and it's all I know how to do. I've got more time behind me than in front of me, and I would like to continue that service. So if Mobilians think we did a great job in policing and reducing crime, certainly homicides, virtually double digits in every category of violent crime, the best single year reduction in 2023 compared to 1988. Had we arrived? No, we absolutely, because we didn't really address perception of crime. But the truth of it is public servitude. Everybody wants to be a public servant. Everybody, and it's easy to be a public servant, right? If you're elected and you're sitting at the highest table in the land in your community. But let me tell you what public service really is. Public service truly is working the front line. Firemen, policemen. We forget a lot of times about our public works. My Lord, where would we be if we didn't have those guys hanging out there and picking up the trash for us? So that's real public service. And I've done it for 30 years, 27 years in the city of Mobile. And so, no, there's no animosity with me. That's what the courts are for. I've leaned on the courts, and it is not perfect. But you can't be in a position of authority and then fight the system that we have. Can it be better? You better believe it can be better, but only strong leadership is going to hold your judges, your DA, your mayor, your policemen. Only strong leadership is going to hold them accountable to do the right thing. And we've been lacking that for many regards. I will simply say this. The courts will make me whole or remedy my situation if they agree with me. If they don't agree with me, it's all for naught. Okay. People ask me all the time whether or not I can get along with the council. You better believe I can. See, what the public doesn't see is that I see and mingle with a lot of the counselors, even today, in and around all these meetings that we've been having for the last 4 months running for mayor. Every single one of them. I've got every one of them's number. I could call them, and there absolutely is no issue. But here's what I would tell Mobilians. This is what I loved about Fred Richardson so much. And no, Fred's not endorsed me, or at least I hadn't heard he was endorsed me, but I got a great relationship with Fred Richardson. Let me tell you what I love about Fred. When Fred was on the council, give me 5 minutes, brother. Just give me 5. Man, I'm just asking for 5. Can you give me 5? I think you can. Listen, give me 5. Here's the truth. Fred did what's best for his constituents. Whether he argued or whether he voted and approved, he made sure that it was his constituencies that were properly being represented in every single transaction. So, yes, I can get along with the council. I'm a consummate professional. What I will tell you is this. They owe their allegiance not to the mayor's office, but to the people that elected them in office, just like the mayor is responsible for those that elected him and didn't elect him. And so in that, then we compromise, then we build up and do what's best for Mobilians, okay? I'll leave you with this. All these leaders say they're going to do this and do that. How do you know? Well, the reality is you got a candidate here that was shot in the line of duty 24 years ago this October. Wynn's Lounge, St. Stephen's Road. Got hit 3 times in the back, lost my left kidney. I could have retired. I could have went and found something else to do. I was 30 years old, but I didn't. No, that does not qualify me to be the mayor. Let me tell you what qualifies a person to be the mayor. Character, integrity, and discipline. I was committed to Mobile in that I continue to serve Mobile even after that critical incident for another 24 years. If that's not dedication and commitment to Mobile, then nothing is. The truth is it cost me an early retirement to the tune of about $18,000 a year for the rest of my natural life on my pension plan. The truth of the matter is I did it because 1, I have character, 2, I have integrity. And integrity everybody has, right? Until it costs them something. Well, it cost me something, and if I did that for me, you can rest assured, Mobile, I'll definitely do it for you.
Man, we greatly appreciate it, man. I am an ex-city employee. I worked for the city of Mobile in the early 90s. Sanitation, park and recreation, with the high income that we have in today's market, what do you see feasible for you to lend a hand or help out the city of Mobile Sanitation and Park and Recreation Department?
Well, listen, that's a great question too. They've been underserved by government for many years, and the focus has always been on police and fire, no doubt. And those are important jobs too. But I've always said, man, where would we be if we didn't have people to cut our trees or trim the grass or trim the things that beautify our community? I would like to do a study to really see where they should be in line with compensation. I will stop short of overcommitting financially, right? Because every politician is going to do it. But I know those guys over there. I've known many of them, guys like Djlo. I've known them for years. And the truth is they deserve more than what they get. We just have to find and strike that right balance. And I'm committed to working with all city employees to ensure that we're doing the things we can do so they can take care and provide for their families, right? And how do we do that in a way that's equitable for everybody, not just some, but for everybody? And I'm willing to do that, committed to doing that. Certainly have talked to many city employees throughout the city. And I think that is something that can be fixed, but it has to be prioritized. And if we don't prioritize it, it will never be fixed.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the great Pual Prine. August the 26th, he's asking for your vote for the city mayor position. Pual is a legacy man in Mobile, ex-policeman, born and raised in Pritchard, Alabama. Graduated 1990. If you like to say any last statement to the voters, Pual, please have at it now.
I'll just simply say this, Mobile, thank you. It has been my privilege to serve you for the last 27 and a half years in my law enforcement capacity. I truly believe in having a servant's heart to serve people. The goal is not enforcement, it's always compliance, but it's also bringing awareness to those that are less fortunate to us. Until we elect a mayor that's going to genuinely look out for every part of Mobile, it will be more the same. And it doesn't matter if they look like you or if they look like me. Unfortunately, people get into office, they love a seat at the big table, and then what do they end up doing? They end up reneging on all the promises that they made you. A promise made is a promise kept from Pual Prine. I love you, and I hope that you'll join me August the 26th and cast that vote for me, because remember this, together we win. And Djlo, Mr. Grown and Sexy, brother, I love you. And I'm humbled, and I thank you for the opportunity to come to your listeners.
Sir. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pual Prine. Thank you again, brother. Congratulations and good luck.
You bet. Thank you so much. Take care, and God bless you here.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all so much for coming in, man. That was the great Paul Prine, Mr. Paul Prine, man. I thank y'all so much for coming in. I will come back to you again Sunday. I will have a double hitter Sunday. We have Shapiro and we'll have District 2 Samantha Ingram. So ride with me, Mobile. I'm trying to make sure y'all make the right choices August the 26th. I appreciate y'all so much for riding with me. I bring you more than music. I am that man. This is the Southern Soul Podcast powered by Big Truck Entertainment. And I am Mr. Grown and Sexy Djlo. Thank you. I see you Sunday. God bless.